They say some experiences are once in a lifetime, but what if you could have that experience over and over again? That's exactly what I did, and it didn't cost me a fortune. In fact, it really didn't cost me much at all. Thanks to some savvy points earning and an obsession for redeeming my points for maximum value, I was able to fly business class around the world. We're talking luxury lounges, lie flat seats, and champagne flowing like water. So buckle up because I'm going to show you exactly how you can do it too. Alright, let's start with the basics. Here's the route I took. Vancouver to Hong Kong to Bangkok, Singapore to Kuala Lumpur to Muscat, Muscat to Frankfurt, Frankfurt to Zurich, Zurich to Montreal, and finally Montreal to Toronto. Yeah, I know, it sounds like a lot, and it was. But every single flight was in business class, and it was all booked with points. I booked a few cheap cash flights in the middle to explore Southeast Asia and to get from Vancouver and Toronto. I spent 172,500 Aeroplan points on this entire trip. And let me tell you, every point was worth it. I could have never afforded this trip out of pocket, but with some smart planning and a bit of strategy, I turned my dream trip into a reality. And the best part? You can too. I'll show you how. First, let me show you what you can look forward to. Kicking things off, we have the longest flight of the trip. Vancouver to Hong Kong on Air Canada's signature business class. Now, Air Canada's business class isn't the flashiest, but they do everything right. The seat was comfy, the food was delicious, and the service was spot on. But the real highlight? Sipping scotch while flying over Mount Fuji. I mean, how cool is that? Next up, we've got Cathay Pacific from Hong Kong to Bangkok. Now, this flight was a game changer. First of all, Cathay Pacific has a niche partnership with Aeroplan, so I could book this using Aeroplan points despite Cathay Pacific being in the One World Alliance. What really blew me away was the incredible lounges at the Hong Kong airport. I hit up both the wing and the pier, two of the most incredible lounges I have ever seen. Made to order noodles, a tea house, sweeping runway views, relaxation rooms, and did I mention the champagne? The flight itself was fantastic, but the lounges really stole the show. I might have spent more time in the lounges than on the flight itself. I booked these two flights as a one-way itinerary for 80,000 Aeroplan points and 150 Canadian in fees. 75,000 points worth for the flights itself and 5,000 for a stopover in Hong Kong. If I were to book these exact flights in cash, it would have cost 5,752 Canadian. And the cheapest business class flights of a similar caliber were 5,001 Canadian dollars. Incredible savings. I thought this was great value, and it was, but I really stepped it up a notch on the way back to Canada. 6 business class flights on a one-way itinerary. First up was Singapore Airlines, who are famous for their service. And this flight from Singapore to Kuala Lumpur didn't disappoint, even though it was a super short flight. It's almost ridiculous to have a lie-flat seat for a 1-hour flight, but hey, who's complaining? Plus, Changi Airport is basically a 5-star resort. I could have spent days at the airport. And yes, there was self-service champagne in the Singapore Airlines lounge. I might have had 1 or 3 glasses before the flight, you know, just to make sure I was fully relaxed. Next, one of my favorites, Kuala Lumpur to Muscat on Oman Air. The seat? Apex Suites. These are some of the most spacious business class seats in the sky. And let's not forget all the little details, like the Arabic coffee and dates they serve, or the pajamas that made me feel like I was about to beam up to the Starship Enterprise. Seriously, I look like Spock in these. But all jokes aside, the service was top-notch, and the fact that I got pajamas on a night flight, pure luxury. I booked a stopover in Oman for a few nights to explore the city. This only cost an extra 5,000 Aeroplan points. I'll explain more on how to do this later in the video. After that, it was right back to my beloved Oman Air. The next leg was Muscat to Frankfurt, and it was just as awesome as the first. But the real gem here was the Oman Air business class lounge in Muscat. Gold accents, nap areas, tons of food and drinks. It was like stepping into a palace. I could have, and maybe should have, spent the entire day there. Honestly, the whole Oman Air experience was a highlight of this trip. After arriving in Europe, I had a quick hop from Frankfurt to Zurich on Swiss's European business class. It's only an hour-long flight, so there's really not much to say here, but it was a necessary leg to get to Zurich for the final long-haul flight, which was Zurich to Montreal on Swiss's lie-flat business class. Now this was a treat. Swiss has this amazing lounge at the Zurich airport where you can just load up on Swiss chocolate. And yes, I did take as much as I could carry. The flight itself was smooth, the lie-flat seats were comfy, and the menu was inspired by different regions in Switzerland. A perfect end to the long-haul portion of this trip. And finally, the last leg, Montreal to Toronto on Air Canada's A330 lie flat business class. These are the smallest lie flat seats in their fleet, but after all that flying, it was still a great way to wrap things up. Starting and ending with Air Canada just felt right. I booked this 6-leg business class bonanza as a one-way itinerary that cost 92,500 Aeroplan points and 227 Canadian in fees. If I were to book these exact flights in cash, it would have cost 17,981 Canadian. The cheapest business class flights of a similar caliber were 12,636. For a final tally, it cost me 172,500 points and 337 Canadian to fly on 8 business class flights that would have cost $22,941. This is why I'm points obsessed. Now let's talk strategy. How did I pull off this epic trip on points? It all comes down to a few key moves. Maximizing flights on one booking. First, I booked 2 separate one-way tickets with Aeroplan points, Vancouver to Bangkok and Singapore to Toronto. With Aeroplan, you can book up to 6 legs on one points ticket without changing the price, so I packed in as many flights as possible. The only thing that matters is the distance you fly, the class you're in, and if you can find availability at the lowest dynamic price. Choosing the right partners. Second, I was strategic about the airlines I flew. Aeroplan has over 50 partner airlines, so I didn't stick with just Air Canada. I mixed in Singapore Airlines, Oman Air, Cathay Pacific, all carriers that offer a top-notch business class experience. Maximizing distance bands. And third, I was smart about the distances that I flew. How much your Aeroplan points flight costs is determined by how far you fly. They have a chart that gives you all the details. Aeroplan's Pacific region offers great value, so I made sure to stay within distance bands that get you the most bang for your points. Vancouver to Bangkok and Singapore to Toronto were just under the 7,500 and 11,000 mile bands respectively, which maximized the value I got from these flights. Booking a trip like this takes work, lots of it, but if you're strategic, the rewards are so worth it. So how can you do something like this? Here's a few tips. Earn points wisely. I'm always focused on earning points, and used a few specific credit card welcome bonuses to increase my points balance quickly. I got an American Express Platinum card and a TD Aeroplan Visa Infinite, which together gave me 130,000 points in welcome bonuses alone. That's 75% of the points needed to book this with 2 welcome bonuses. I'll have referral links to my favorite credit cards that can earn you these points quickly in the description below. Use Partner Airlines. Aeroplan's partnerships are key. I didn't just stick with Air Canada. I leveraged their partnerships with other airlines to allow me to fly all the way around the world. They have tons of partner airlines that aren't even in Star Alliance, like Cathay Pacific and Oman Air. I'll link the full list of Aeroplan partners in the description. Take advantage of stopovers. When booking long-haul trips, don't forget about stopovers. With Aeroplan, you can add 1 stopover on a one-way ticket for just 5,000 extra Aeroplan points. This allows you to explore an additional city without breaking the bank. I did this in Hong Kong and Muscat, and it added a whole new dimension to my trip. Between the 2 one-ways, I explored Southeast Asia, allowing for lots of sightseeing and relaxing on the ground between luxurious flights. Timing is everything. Booking a trip like this takes patience and timing. Flights in business class can fill up fast, so you need to be ready to pounce when you see availability. Watch daily, keep checking, and be ready to book. I waited for months before booking this itinerary, and in a few hours it all came together. In general, I recommend booking as far in advance as possible, like 11 months out, or super last minute, a month in or less. Call the call center. Aeroplan's website will not be able to book a 6-leg itinerary online. You need to call the Aeroplan call center instead. You'll have to have the flights you want to take ready. They do the booking, not the searching. If you're only flying 2 legs, you'll be able to book online using Air Canada's multi-city search tool. Use tools and resources. There are a ton of resources out there to help you book and plan your trip. Don't underestimate the power of a good travel community. Forums like Flyer Talk, blogs, and even YouTube channels can be gold mines of information. And hey, shameless plug, my premium email newsletter covers cool redemptions like this, and I also offer one-on-one consultations if you need help planning your dream trip. And one last tip, this hobby can get addicting. Once you start flying business class on points, you might find yourself plotting your next trip before you even land on the last one. But hey, it's a pretty great addiction to have. Cheers.